Hey everybody, this is Brendan with Business for Chummies. In this short video, we're going to take a look at how you can improve your navigation and viewing of data in Excel through freezing your panes and maybe even splitting your window. So I've got a data set here, just some video rental data that I populated using a nifty online tool. And what we're going to be doing is looking at how can we scroll and view data both vertically and horizontally um, in the most efficient way. So on the View tab up here in Excel, you have a few options, which are the Freeze Panes option and the Split option. We're going to be looking at the Freeze Panes option first. So in the Freeze Panes menu, there's three options here: Freeze Panes, Freeze Top Row, and Freeze First Column. So the simplest uses of these are the freeze top row, which when I click that, what that's going to do is always freeze row number one. So whatever you have on row number one, when you scroll vertically, that row number one is always going to stay there stuck to the top of the worksheet. And then similarly, with the freeze the first column, whenever you scroll horizontally, that first column is always going to be stuck to the left side of the worksheet. Now the freeze panes option gives you a little bit more flexibility on which columns you want, which columns or rows and or rows you would like to have frozen. So let's go ahead and first take a look at freezing the columns that you want. So when you place your cursor on a cell and you choose the freeze pane selection, what that's going to do is freeze all columns to the left of your selection. So currently I have my cursor selecting a value in column B, and what that's going to do is freeze column A. So if I choose freeze panes, you'll notice when I navigate horizontally, column A is frozen. If I were to choose column C in my selection and then freeze the panes, it's going to freeze all columns to the left, so it'll freeze columns A and B in this instance. And then similarly with the rows, if I have my cursor in row 2 here, for example, the freeze panes is always going to freeze the rows above my selection. So if I freeze panes, it'll freeze that top row. If I have row 3 selected and I freeze panes, it's going to freeze both rows above my selection. And what this does is gives you the flexibility to not only freeze rows or columns, but to freeze both. So in this example, let's say that I always wanted to see this top row as I'm scrolling vertically, and I always wanted to see this first column as I scroll horizontally. That way, no matter which data I'm looking at on my worksheet, I can always see the labels of the columns, and I can always see this user ID. So what I'll do is I'll put my cursor in cell B2 here, and then I'll hit the freeze panes. And remember what that's going to do is freeze all the rows above my selection and all the columns to the left of my selection. So when I scroll vertically, I've got the top row static, and when I scroll horizontally, that left column is static. So a nice neat feature allows me to make sure that if I have cells or columns over on the far right side and I need to reference a specific value that's on the left, that information is always available. And as I'm scrolling down, I always have the top row available to me to give me those headers or those labels for the column. So that's the freeze panes option. And then one other option you have available to you is the split option. So what split will do is actually create a second viewing pane within your worksheet. So let's just go ahead and take a look at this. If I highlight column D, what this is going to do is if I select the entire column, is it's going to create a split window right between column C and D, and then I can navigate either side of the split as if they were separate worksheets. So I'm going to click split. You'll see it puts this gray bar here. And you notice down below now I have two horizontal scroll bars. This first horizontal scroll bar is for that first viewing pane, and then the second horizontal bar is for that right side viewing pane. And then I can also scroll vertically, but because these rows go together, they're scrolling together. All right, the other thing you can do with split is actually to split the viewing area into 4 different panes. And you do that by simply selecting a cell. So I select a cell, and what it's going to do is it's going to create a four-way split on the top left corner of the selection. I'll see that here. So now you see there's four different panes across my worksheet, and now I can scroll both horizontally and vertically separately. So on this left side, I can scroll vertically, and that's going to scroll the top two, and I can scroll horizontally, and it's going to scroll the left two. But if I put my cursor into the bottom here, it's going to vertically scroll only the bottom two, and then horizontally, it'll only scroll the left. So I have a lot of flexibility here. You could essentially get, with a little bit of wiggling around, you could generate four unique views in each pane. And then once you have the panes split, you can simply bring your cursor and drag and drop. Maybe you have a large viewing section that you want in the top right and small areas that you want to reference on the other viewing panes. All right, so that was a nice quick tutorial on how to freeze panes and how to split. Hope you learned something, had some fun. Don't forget to subscribe for more great videos, and we'll see you next time.